Hi, welcome to our channel. Just thought I'd do a quick video. A couple of people have asked about it as to the procedure for getting me here to America. We survived American immigration. You can too. Welcome to our channel. This is a short video talking about the process of moving to the United States on a K-1 visa. Okay, so it's been made famous via the television, the famous 90-day fiancé. Guess what? That was me. In fact, they did contact us and ask us to go on the show, but I asked them what was in it for me and there wasn't anything, so we didn't. What I want to do in this video is just talk you through the process that we went through for our K-1 visa. It might make things a little bit clearer. It's a bit of a convoluted, complicated and expensive process. So we're going to try and talk you through step by step how we did things without the use of a lawyer or an attorney. Many people do use a lawyer and an attorney, or an attorney, sorry. It's not for everyone. Personally, I wasn't prepared to give them that money when I knew I could pretty much do it myself with a bit of research. Going to go through all the tips and tricks that we've got for staying on top of your application and also not going completely crazy in the process. So, without further ado, let's kick it off. So first of all, you've fallen in love. It's pretty pukey, isn't it? But unfortunately, you are overseas. Now, I am a Brit, of course, and I met my significant other online via Tinder. See the other video about that. And we applied for a K-1 visa for me to move to the United States. There is, in fact, a couple of ways you can move to the United States if you have met somebody you intend to marry. There's the K-1 visa, known as the Fiancé visa, and also you've got the CR1 as well. So maybe you've met somebody online, just like I met my wife online. Via Tinder, I'll have you know. Do check out our other videos if you want to really see how we met via Tinder and ended up married. It's a crazy journey, but it's worth a watch. So what I want to share with you today is our process. So what we chose to do. We didn't use an attorney or a lawyer. I refused to give them the extortionate amount of money that they want, when actually I knew that there were people who had done it themselves just by engaging their brain, doing a bit of online research, and quite frankly, if you can read, write, and you've got the internet, you can do it yourself too. But joking aside, if your case is simple, it's not a complicated case, you don't have a criminal record, maybe you don't have children involved, you can totally do this yourself. If you are concerned in any way, then do obviously seek legal advice. That's the disclaimer. I personally wouldn't. So the process that we went through was a K-1. You can actually do a K-1 or a CR1. They're both essentially ways of getting married to an American and moving to the United States. Now, the K-1 visa is known as the Fiancé visa, made famous by the TV show, the 90-day fiancé. I was that person. And the other one is a CR1. Now, the difference is on a K-1 visa, you apply for your visa before you get married. So you apply to USCIS, US Immigration, and say, hiya, I've met my significant other and I'd like to get married, please can I come? That's that application. The other application is a CR1. Now that's where you get married outside of the United States or in the United States, but you apply for that and only when that has been granted can you move to the United States. So we had quite a big decision to make about which route to go. We did consider getting married in the UK and doing the CR1 route. In the end, we went with the K-1, and also it meant that we could spend more time together. The CR1 does require you to be apart a little bit longer whilst that's being processed, and that can be quite tricky, particularly for new relationships. So the route we took was a K-1. Now that costs $535. That's to file your application. So you get this big form, print it off the internet, fill it in the best you can, and you send off a form which is the G1450. Now, the reason I recommend that is because essentially they take the money from your credit card. There is the option to also send a check. Now, checks are pretty old school in England, but here in America, they use them a lot. And I have heard quite a few cases where checks have been mislaid, not cashed, not written out correctly. For me, I just wanted this as simple as possible, so I gave him my credit card details and said, take what you want. It worked really well for us, we had no issue. So $535 gives you the privilege of sending a piece of paper to immigration for them to assess whether or not you are eligible for a K1 visa. So what you're waiting for after you've sent that off is you're waiting for this little gem. This is a notice of action. And essentially it's called the I-797C. What that basically says is, hi Claire, we've got your application. That's it, that's all it means. But it's kind of every step of this journey, it's nice to get a bit of paper. It's nice to get any correspondence from immigration to know that your case is being dealt with. So you send off your $535, you get back this and you think, great, now it's in their hands. Now, the waiting times for immigration really can vary. Now, the K1 is, it's meant to be a reasonably short one. It's increased, and it ebbs and flows. I'm recording this in March 2020, and I've got the most up-to-date case processing times for this date. But I urge you to go online and check the current timescales. They change a lot. Every time that an immigration law or rule is changed, there is always a backlog. There is always either speeds up in one area and slows down in another. So for the most up-to-date processing times, check the website. It's uscis.gov. That's uscis.gov, and you can put in the information there, which form, which visa you've applied for, and which office you sent your application to, and it'll give you a rough guide. Now, I say rough guide because some of the windows of time that they offer you for a processing time are massive. They're huge. It's like a lifetime. It could be like 1 day and 2 years. Not quite that bad, but you get the idea. It's really tricky to know exactly when this stuff's going to be processed, and I highly recommend a website called visajourney.com. Now, what Visa Journey does is it relies on people like you and me putting in our information and keeping it up to date, and it then enables them to give far more accurate processing times than you're going to get through American immigration. Highly recommend it, visajourney.com. It has saved me so many headaches. It's saved us a huge amount of money and a real lifesaver. It really is. I'll go on to why in a little while. So we actually sent off our application on the 5th of May. We got our notice of action, our I-797C, back 5 days later. Nice and quick. Thought, brilliant. We're rocking. This is going to be quick. No. Then you hit this waiting period. You just have to sit and wait. Essentially, your application is in a great big pile on somebody's desk, wherever you've sent it. At the moment, they're asking you to send it to the California office. Somebody there, I've got this image of an immigration officer with this stack of files, spilling coffee, knocking it off the table, and then you feel like yours has been put to the bottom. The stories that you tell yourself during the immigration process, I'm sure you would agree, are crazy. Now, a lot of people ask, what did your K1 application look like? Now, it doesn't have to be like this. They do not want you stapling loads of stuff together. They are going to literally go through and say, have they met? Is this legit? Done. That's what they're going to do. So don't make it overcomplicated. You don't need to include personal text messages. Do not put any smut in your application. Ours looked like this. We sent it in this folder, which has a number of different inserts, and all we provided was the information that they asked for. There's a list. Send what they need. Don't be clever. Don't be sending extra photographs and videos, and I've heard all sorts of crazy things. All they want to know at this stage is, are you eligible for that visa? Have you met in person? And does it appear on paper that your relationship is legitimate and genuine? Okay, so you sit and wait. For us, on the 30th of October, that was 166 days, which doesn't sound too bad. And then I actually thought, hang on a minute, that's 5 months and 13 days later. We finally got it. This is the notice of action. It's called the I-797, and this basically says you're approved. Brilliant, jackpot. You think you're well in now? Book your tickets. Alas, no. That's just the first step of getting your K1 visa in your passport and actually making that journey to the United States to marry your fiancé. So, got this piece of paper, and it goes up in quality of paper, so you get a nice skanky bit of paper to start with, and when you've paid $500, you get a nice bit of vellum. So you've got that piece of paper, you've waited 5 months, you've rung up the biggest phone bills ever with your long distance relationship. I recommend WhatsApp. You're permanently glued to the telephone, and it's tough. A long distance relationship is really, really difficult. Now, the good thing, if you're a Brit, we have an arrangement with the United States that we can have an ESTA, which is essentially a tourist visa, a holiday visa if you like, which means that we can enter the United States for 90 days unhindered to do with what we want. So that's what I did. So we weren't apart for the full 5 months. I was here for a good chunk of it. And that was a real blessing to be able to do that. And my wife was actually able to come to the UK and meet my family. And also she was allowed 90 days in the United Kingdom. So it's a reciprocal agreement we've got. You can do that whilst you're waiting for this. It's tough. There's no two ways about it. Immigration and this process is very stressful. It's very emotional. There will be tears, but it is ultimately super worth it. Everything that I'm talking about in this video, I will put in the links below. I'll put links to Visa Journey, I'll put links to immigration and the processing times page, which you are going to be probably bookmarking and using on a daily basis. And don't forget, if this video is useful to you, please subscribe. Ask me some questions. Any questions you've got about the immigration process, certainly with a K1, I will do my very best to answer your questions. And if there's enough need, I'll do another video as well. So what happens now? We've got a piece of paper that says that we have been approved. Now they now send your application from whatever office has processed it to the National Visa Centre. Now the National Visa Centre are the people who kind of rubber stamp it, and then they send it out to your embassy in your home country. So for me, that would be London. So our application was approved on the 30th of October. They then sent it to the NVC, who then sent it to the embassy. Now that lot took nearly 2 months. Frustrating as hell. So NVC received ours on the 30th of November, which took exactly a month from us getting that approval notice. And then on the 27th of December, right around Christmas, the embassy received it. Now that is when you can finally do something. Now, for me, I was busy before then. I knew what documents were going to be required and I was getting ready. Whilst in England, I took full advantage of being there and I got hold of all of the paperwork that you're going to need to process this visa application. So some of the things that were needed in terms of documentation, for me, I had a bit of an issue in that I had a different surname when I was born compared to where I have now. So I had to prove when my name was changed. So I had to get things like exam certificates, which are actually really useful to take to the US anyway. Dig out every important document you have ever had. You need a long form birth certificate, not the short one that's handwritten, the little tiny one. You need a long one. So you need to bear in mind that's a cost and also a time constraint of getting your birth certificate if you don't have it. Scan everything. Every document we had, we scanned and we put in Dropbox and we shared it. You know, quite often your fiancé, who may be in the United States, is going to need documentation. Bang it all on Dropbox, share it, scan it, you're done. Good tip. The other piece of identification you need is an ACRO, which is basically a police certificate to say that you're not a criminal. Now, quite what they're looking for, I don't know. Mine was clean, so there was no great issue, but I did have to get that organised. I think it was £20 and it arrived pretty quickly. But again, I started collating all of these documents and putting it in my trusty file so that I was ready when I had to go to the American Embassy in London. I wanted to be super organised. I wanted to give them no problem. I wanted them just to stamp it and move on. So you've got your approval notice. You've been approved essentially. Your file has now arrived in London. It's time to do your medical. Now, this is going to cost you, at the moment, it's around £330. Now, I was a little bit nervous about this, I have to be honest. Now, what they ask you to go with is your NHS records. So you go to your GP and you say, please could I have a printout of my records? And it's not like War and Peace. They have like a summary sheet that you can take along with you. They'll also ask you for some other information, usually identification, but it'll be on your appointment letter. I had my medical in London on the 14th of January. I took with me the information that they required and also took a summary sheet from my GP. Now, mine was pretty easy, simple in and out. They do a chest x-ray, they do a medical, physical, and they also take blood and a urine test. I was in and out probably in 2 hours tops, and then that information is sent to the embassy. You will leave there with a form which they have ticked. Now, before you go to that medical, find out what vaccinations you need. Have your vaccinations done before you go to your medical. Now, they need a number of different jabs. You can find them online, exactly what is the requirement for you personally. For me, I was missing an MMR jab. I had both as a child, but actually there was no record of the second one, so I had that done. And I also had to go to Boots and get a flu jab, the first and probably the last I'm ever going to have. So I had all my vaccinations ready. All they needed to do is see proof of it, stamp it, done. Once you've cleared the medical, it is time to book your appointment, of course, with the embassy. Now, I wanted to get mine done as quickly as possible. They suggest that you leave a week between your medical and your interview at the embassy so that there is enough time to get your medical results to the immigration officer who is ultimately going to sign off on your visa. So, 14th of January I had my medical. I went for my interview in London at the US Embassy on the 22nd of January. So you can see that there's a week here, a week there, a month there. Time does add up. So you can look at the processing times for a K1 visa and say, oh, it's 5 months. Actually, our total duration from sending the initial application off, the I-129F, and actually getting the visa in my passport, in hand, ready to go, took 272 days. That's 8 months and 27 days, and I'm telling you, they are hardest 8 months of my life. So when you book your appointment for the embassy, you're asked to fill in a DS-160. Looks something like this. Woo! Don't look at the picture, it's a shocker. And you have to take with you again a number of pieces of information. We took our folder. I went alone. My wife, well, my now wife, was here in the United States. I went alone. I had everything that I needed, financial information. I had identifications. I had proof of my name. I changed the name by depot. I had birth certificates. I had naturalization certificates. I had passport copies. I had everything. And of course I had my trusty English passport with me. The process there is kind of crazy. I thought I was going to have to queue for ages. There is a massive queue outside the American embassy. But actually, when you've paid the money, some $285, you get to jump the queue, which is actually a bit of a result. So you'll see the queue outside, you hand them this piece of paper, and they will let you go straight through. You go through security and you go up to the offices, and you'll be allocated a booth where you sit and wait to speak to an immigration officer. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, they're not the friendliest. I was very lucky. My lady was nice, she was to the point, but she didn't want to chit-chat with me. She wanted me in and out as quickly as possible. All of my paperwork was in order, which was thankful. The only thing I did get wrong is I wear glasses, as you can see, and the passport photographs that I took with me to the embassy had me wearing my glasses. It's acceptable in British passports because I've got my goggles on in this one, but it's not acceptable for immigration. So a little bit of blind panic, but they said, no problem, just go around the corner. On the same floor as where the visas are issued, there's a photo booth. Now, if you're as blind as a bat like me, you want to be organised and take your own pictures, because the picture that they take is going on your visa. Now, I look like I've just escaped the asylum, I'll be honest. I had no glasses on, I couldn't see the camera, I don't know whether I'm looking in the right place, I looked a bit like Stevie Wonder. So do take your photographs to the American sizes at one of these photo shops on the high street without your glasses so that you can be sure that you look half decent. So once you've done that, you leave the American embassy and you leave behind your passport. Now that's kind of scary. For most people who like to travel, you know that this is the Holy Grail and do not let go of it. I actually paid the extra, which was £20, I think, to send my passport back to me, A, quickly, and B, secure post. We hadn't booked the flights for me to the US. They advised you not to. You never know if there's going to be a delay. Try not to push it. You know, I think with all of these things, you are in the hands of immigration. They set their own timetable. Do not plan your wedding. Do not book your flight. You know, make plans and God laughs, yeah? So the total so far that we've paid out is $535. That's your filing fee. You pay $285 at the embassy. This is all in US dollars, by the way. And the medical costs a whopping $330 to go in there and be poked and prodded. So that comes in at a total of $1,130 plus an extra £20 for the secure post of your passport back. CR1 though does enable you to get a temporary green card as soon as you arrive in the US. So if that is important to you, then that's a route you might want to look at. It's a really tough call between the two. On the whole, I'm glad I did the K1 because I didn't want to be apart for long periods of time. So the postman finally came and delivered this little gem to me on the 1st of February. That is a K1 visa. Don't look at the picture. That's a K1 visa, and that's it. That's what all your hard work, stress, tears have been about. And literally, when you go through port of entry in the United States, they look at it, well, they laughed at mine, but they looked at it, they'll stamp it, and you're done. It's so simple on the way in. You think that it's gonna be like, you know, the Spanish Inquisition. It's not, it's really quite simple. So this arrived on the 1st of February, and I think I flew to the US 5 days later. So I think I entered the United States on the 6th of February or somewhere like that. Now the thing you need to know is that until you process your advance parole travel document, you can't leave the United States. Now, I wasn't fully au fait with this bit. So the second part of your immigration journey, if you like, you're gonna get to the United States, you're gonna be with your loved one, you're gonna get married, it's all gonna be marvelous. And then you've got to apply to adjust your status, also known as an AOS or a I-485 form. There's also the advance parole, which is essentially a travel document which says that you can travel and leave the country because you've applied for your green card. And the third and final one is your EAD, which is an employment authorization permit. Now, all three of those are done in one hit. If you're a K1 visa and you come on in, you pay one fee, you get all three. Maybe that's going to change, who knows? It's a nice opportunity to make some money. That was certainly the process that we took. We got married on Valentine's Day, and I actually filed for my adjustment of status the 7th of March. So I didn't hang around, I think it was about 3 weeks or so. We actually had the paperwork ready to go. So we actually filed for the adjustment of status, the advanced parole travel document, and the work permit all in one hit on the 6th or 7th of March. So that gives you an idea of the timeline that we took. That's pretty much it for the K1. You can come into the United States, but you can't leave until you've got that advanced travel permit. So when you come to the United States and you send off your adjustment of status to get that temporary green card and your advanced parole and your work permit, eventually, after a long wait, the current waiting times are 6 to 8 months after you've applied, you get this little gem. And then for me, it finally felt, other than getting married, that I had really arrived, you know, and I felt like I was really a resident. Now, this little card is called a combo card. This also serves as your advance parole and it's your work permit when you put it with your social security number. This was the most important card so far that I got before we get the big boy, which is the green card. So, to summarise, K1 takes ages. Do your homework, have your paperwork in order, do not leave anything to chance. Check the processing times on the website uscis.gov. Have a look at the processing times, keep an eye on them, but do not become neurotic. Do join visajourney.com. The forums on there are lifesaver. And also they will give you a very accurate idea of when you're going to be approved and get that notification of approval, and when you might actually be able to book your appointment at the embassy and how far they're booking out at any given time. Share your experience online, add your timeline, keep it up to date, and actually it's like a community of people who are all helping each other get approved. I hope that's been helpful. There are lots of steps along the way after arriving in the States. For example, you need to get your social security number. I had my social security number literally 2 days after I arrived here, and I know a lot of people a little bit unsure about how that's done. If you want a video about how we got the social security number in 2 days, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit subscribe, ring the bell, do what you got to do, but ask me some questions. Anything I've not covered that you'd like me to cover, please do put it in the comments below and I will do my best. If I don't know the answer, I'll even research it for you. Can't say fairer than that. So don't forget, hit subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this on immigration, where we can share our experience, certainly through the adjustment of status, all the way up to this green card. Please do hit subscribe.